talk about communication. But there are a lot of instances in which there is communication, but there is no language. And I'm trying to read, get to the quotation here. Yeah, that languages are historical, social, and political creations, right? And then the most important aspect here is a statement that says, okay, yeah, this is not me. This is from, I just discovered this about 2-3 months ago. This is somebody called, it's a French scholar called Jean-Luc Amsel. It's called, the title of his chapter is on cultural and linguistic specificity. Then he says this, regarding language or languages, I'll start by paraphrasing Sartre and stating that non-existence precedes existence, that the non-existence of languages, like that of cultures and traditions, precedes their existence. That languages don't exist in order to exist. It is not because languages exist that we speak them, but on the contrary, it is because they are spoken that they exist. People speak the languages that they speak. Right. It is not because languages exist that we speak them, but on the contrary, it is because that they are spoken that they exist. You see, then the argument that is there, which I then make, is that languages don't exist in the manner in which linguists or Western linguists understand them to exist. The pushback that is there in conservative scholars, among conservative scholars, they then say that what Makoni and Pennycook are therefore arguing is that they are opposed to language rights. They are opposed to language reclamation. That is the argument that they then put. Because if languages don't exist, they then argue you can't have language rights. But that is simplifying the story. The story that we are trying to tell is this. Languages are constructs, so they cannot have rights like human beings. Right. We are trying to deny a weird situation in which rights are ascribed to languages, but not necessarily to people. Right. Right. That is the argument that we're trying to avoid, and we're trying to avoid a situation in which the notion of rights is a universal notion, and which is said to be consistent and uniform across the globe. Right. That is what we are. Rarely do you have a discussion, let's say, about an indigenous Brazilian understanding of the notion of rights. You are simply told that the indigenous languages must have rights. But then you ask, rights is understood by whom? For what purposes? Is articulated in what sense? They are completely silent on that particular matter. Right. Yeah. That is. Oh, Clarissa, what are you doing here? My famous friend Clarissa. What are you doing?
I'm sorry, Professor. I'm sorry, dearest Professor ever in the world. Yes. I invited myself in. Thank you, Gabriel.
Clarissa,
Mariana. Now that Clarissa is around, there's no point for me in talking. I'll pack my bags and go home and sleep. You can just as well ask Clarissa to do the talking. She'll do it much more effectively than I can. Mm. Mm. Nice.
So
Yes, I enjoyed the presentation by your colleague at the American Association of Applied Linguistics. Mm. Mm. Yeah. So what do you want? What do you want me to do?
oh, okay. It's like a class, but it's not everything like a class. So I would like to thank
Okay.
you also.
Let me try this.
Yes, please do it.
Mhm.
So, as we are about to start, so let me introduce you and your work in scholarship, because I also prepared my presentation for your scholarship.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. We should- you
That
who just
it
arrived
makes my
here.
life much easier.
You who just
Yeah.
arrived here. I've been lost with time zone. I have problems
Mhm.
concerning calculating time zone. So I think something happened so that we are stored. We can consider, but we were talking here, having a conversation on many aspects and topics. I said I would like to hear from Professor Sinfree, but now officially committed to introducing. Uh, so first, I would like to say that we are streaming this conversation. So Professor Makoni, uh, if you don't have anything against it, could I have it for the students who aren't here? So can I do it?
That's fine with me. That's fine with me.
Okay, no problem. So first, I would like to thank you for accepting my invite. I know about your schedule and specifically talking about what you've been doing for the global south. I myself have it's to caring and to moving that what Professor Makoni does for us young scholars from the global south. I have personally to say that I was included in the African Studies program that he's been leading, and now I can every Friday attend a global forum. That's very interesting. That as Mariana and Clarice and Juliana and most people here can I'm very uh, Professor Makoni and most of you are my elders, but I have to say that in my early work, I've been criticized or sometimes put at stake by some scholars from working on sociolinguistics in Brazil, because sometimes we are tagged by questioning their way on sociolinguistics, like if that was only one way to look at sociolinguistics. And for my surprise, Professor Makoni has been one of the scholars, as my elder, and of course, a scholar who's from the global south, who works for a university in the global north, but has been devouring so much endeavor to include and with many projects in co-authoring or in uh, partaking with some colleagues from some universities, such as Christine Severo or some colleagues in South Africa or in many countries from Africa. I, of course, academically, I should say much more, but this is the first to do it here. So, Professor Sinfree Makoni is from Zimbabwe. He holds a BA in English with a specialty in linguistics from the University of Ghana, and a PhD in applied linguistics from Edinburgh University, Scotland. He taught at several universities in Southern Africa, notably the University of the Western Cape. of Cape Town. He was a postdoctoral fellow at the Center for Afro American Studies at the University of Michigan. He's currently a professor in the Department of Applied Linguistics and African Studies program at the Pennsylvania State University, as I mentioned. Extraordinary professor at University of the Western Cape and Northwest University, and a visiting professor at Nelson Mandela University. He was also a Carnegie Diaspora Fellow at Laikipia University in Kenya. He's published extensively in areas of language and aging, language and security, language policy and planning, Southern epistemologies, and decoloniality. He's published 120 articles or more in book chapters and co-edited 15 books. His most recent publication include Innovations and Challenges to Applied Linguistics from the Global South, uh, Integrational Linguistics and Philosophy of Language in the Global South, The Languaging of Higher Education in the Global South, Decolonizing the Language of Scholarship and Pedagogy, Language in the Global South, in the plural, and Decolonial Voices, Language and Race. As I said, with co-authoring or co-editing with many colleagues. He is the architect of the African Studies Global Forum, and which seeks to engage scholars in both the Global North and the Global South, and the co-editor of the new Multilingual Matters book series Global Forum on Southern Epistemologies. He currently serves as co-editor of the Journal of Applied Linguistics. So this is your academic uh, way to say hello and welcome to your scholarship, to moving and caring that you accepted my invite, but also responding my emails, talking about many aspects that we I've been talking as a young scholar. So, like my elder, I would like to say welcome finally, and now you can talk what you want because he said that he yesterday night he didn't know what was the the issue to address here. So now you can do about what you want to do. So thank you very much and welcome, Professor.
Yeah, I thank you very much. I try and respond to email. I think Clarissa can attest to that. Not very. I don't read very well, but I do. I do respond once in a while, once in a while to email. Okay, thank you very much. I think it's always a pleasure to have a chance to have this informal conversation with everybody. When you were talking about my academic career, what I thought about was a short, a couple of paragraphs that I've been writing for a book that I'm working on with Anna Demaj about our life histories, because that then provides some background to me that doesn't appear frequently in my scholarship. And let me read to you the parts of my life before I did my PhD. This comes under the title "Part of My Life: Stories and Continuous Shifts." I've been in this office in 311 Sparks at Pennsylvania State University for 2 decades, longer than I have lived in any single place in my entire life. My desk faces the same wall that I have looked at longer than I would like to imagine. I've reflected on how I finally found myself developing a career in a place that I did not know when I left Southern Africa, and on whether my career would have been different if I had not been an academic nomad. My intellectual nomadic career began when I left Rhodesia, which is now called Zimbabwe, to fly to Blantyre, Malawi in 1980, as the Rhodesian government did not allow its citizens to be admitted to the University of Rhodesia unless we had served in the Rhodesian army against the Zimbabwean Liberation Army. I stayed in Malawi for 9 months with a relative. During my stay, I had an opportunity to experience independent Africa at a time when Rhodesia was under the control of a white regime. This gave me the opportunity to view myself through different lenses: independent Africa and racist Rhodesia. I was a young body with multiple political and educational experiences. In Malawi, one of the refugee organizations bought me a ticket to the United Kingdom after my efforts to proceed to Kenya to join an uncle failed. It was difficult to gain access to the United Kingdom because I did not have in quotes the right papers. After repeating fragments of discourses I had picked up from many other Zimbabweans, that the British government had an obligation to allow us into the United Kingdom, the immigration officer granted me permission to enter. During my stay there, I lived with a close relative. This period overlapped with the time when the British were negotiating constitutional arrangements, which came to be known as the Lancaster House Constitution, between the white regime led by Ian Smith and the different liberation armies in Zimbabwe. It was during this time that I fondly remember meeting a close friend who was part of the Zimbabwean Liberation Army. We exchanged notes, and it was interesting to recall how we were clearly traveling in different directions. He was moving into becoming part of government, while I was destined to be an outsider. It is this outsider view that I have retained over time. From the United Kingdom, after receiving a scholarship from the African American Institute, I left for Cuttington University in Liberia. At Cuttington University, I had my first experience of the potentially negative impact of language policy. At Cuttington University, studying French was mandatory, and all Liberian students had studied French in high school. To graduate from Cuttington, I needed to pass French, but the possibility of my doing so was remote because I did not have the necessary high school background. When I was leaving Rhodesia, discussions concerning the liberation of Rhodesia. When I was in Liberia, I experienced the converse of liberation discourses. My first military experience of a coup. When I arrived in Liberia, Samuel Tolbert had just been overthrown by Samuel Doe. These early experiences of Africa made me aware how quickly events could change, as well as the need to see events from many different perspectives. From Cuttington University, I proceeded to the University of Ghana, Legon, Accra, where I completed my junior degree in English with a specialty in linguistics. What I found fascinating at the University of Ghana was that most of the lecturers were Ghanaians, and the material that they used was written by African scholars. My experience in Ghana left me with the impression that a strong nationalist and Pan-African orientation to scholarship was indeed possible. It took me some time to explore how this nationalistic epistemological orientation could be integrated into linguistics, in which we were taught was scientific and descriptive. That is the background story to my life that I've only gradually begun to write about. And this will be the first time that I've written about the period preceding my PhD at the University of Ghana. Right. And it's interesting when I look back and I think about what is it that I found interesting at the University of Ghana or at the University at Cuttington University. What is it that I got frightened by language policy, and what is it that has remained with me as I have continued to think about these issues? What frightened me at Cuttington University was not that people were being taught that French was mandatory, was that I didn't have a background in French, and I could never succeed in completing my degree unless I had gone to another university. So what I learned from there was that indeed it is possible for a well-intentioned policy to have negative impact on other people. And I then had to move on to another university. Not because they were not doing what they were doing well, but because the system did not take into account the possibility that the student population was heterogeneous. And I happened not to be one of those people, so I had to move on. And then when I moved to Ghana, what I found interesting was having moved across the world at a young age was the need for pan-African, views about scholarship that cut across different regions, something that I find very interesting. For example, the Global Forum, it is part of that desire because of the conversation that I had with people from different parts of the world that I realized that you need to converse with many different people. But the linguistics that I was being taught at that point, they taught it very well. But there was no way I could incorporate pan-African view, nationalistic epistemology into the linguistics that I was being taught. It just was not possible. Because the linguistics was like positivity. It was a sign of so my work over the years has been trying to address how is it that linguistics can incorporate those particular experiences. I never could understand, for example, why we had to spend a lot of time studying Chomsky. It was fascinating studying, but there were a lot of mosquitoes and all that. So I remember talking to a friend of mine who is now was previous dean of communication at the University of Ghana. Why do we have to spend our time trying to draw tree diagrams with their mosquitoes? Can they take some linguistics that helps us to sort out these mosquitoes? Because I couldn't see the connection between the issues about language that we were learning in class and the environment that I was in. Anyway, that is the background to the story. So now what I want to do, I want to spend the next 20 minutes or so talking about what will an applied linguistics or linguistics or language studies that are grounded in the Southern epistemologies look like. The objective of my current work is to situate linguistics, applied linguistics or language studies in the theories of the South, what Jean and John Komarov call theories of the South, or what Rowan Cornell now calls theory. Right. Or what Lewis Gordon calls shaping the geography of reason, or what James Gordon calls creolization. Even though there's no single theory of the South, all these theories seek to increase the impact of experiences of people from the South on the formulation of linguistic theory. The theories are a product of the impact of subjugated groups on the formulation of linguistic theory. In addition to the Global South providing raw material, it should also supply insights which are relevant to the rest of the world through the deployment of analytical heuristics such as inventions, accommodation, and hype. For Santos and Menes, the ideal informants for providing insights into theories of the South are those who are indigenous peasants and landless from different regions of the world. And for example, what Sinfree Makoni called the Columbus program. Walter McDonald, for example, identifies the notion of border thinking to describe thinking and doing originating from the South that deliberately confronts Western ways of thinking. Hubristic Eurocentrism, capitalism, and communism. Rowan Cornell, informed by her gender studies, regards these movements as ontoformative, meaning that they produce new structures, realities, and agencies that differentiate the Southern landscape from the European American one. Yes, the groups are brought to the forefront by different authors, the landless by Santos and the indigenous by Cornell. Despite their differences, theories from the South and epistemologies of the South presuppose political commitment. Political commitment requires acting without knowing the outcome, and acting for those whom one will never know. For example, for me, for certain orientations towards linguistics, there's always something to learn from different ways of learning, knowing, expressing, and living. Having labeled linguistics as being hubristically Eurocentric, we should propose to rectify the weaknesses of linguistics because of its Eurocentrism by proposing a conceptual vocabulary and developing a political grammar of language studies from the global South. The conceptual grammar and political grammar will be founded on at least 3 principles: 1, innovation; 2, animation; and 3, transgression. We should also pay special attention, as Rowan Cornell puts it, to indigenous knowledge formation and alternative universalism, thereby challenging Eurocentrism and white male heteronormative foundations which dominate the field of linguistics. Racism and sexism are cultural ideologies which guide Eurocentric construction of notions used in linguistic analysis, such as language. Such as the idea of language families, for example. The construction of Bantu linguistics is the product, for example, of an interdisciplinary coalition between theology, linguistics, physiology, involving outline, fantasy, and fiction. To develop global epistemologies in language, we need to shift the geography of reason. Shifting the geography of reason provides the framework for the analysis of epistemologies of the South. For example, one of the challenges which requires the shift in the geography of reason in African sociolinguistics is the trope that it has too many languages. According to Pesifra, viewing language from a perspective which is incompatible with the global southern perspective is reflected in the trope that it has too many languages. Such a perspective is incompatible with southern epistemology because what are called languages in Africa are from Pesifra's perspective variants of what he regards as core languages or clusters, which can share the same spelling system. The variants of clusters can be taught using unified or harmonized orthography. If these core languages use a harmonized spelling, then it will be feasible to have institutions which can recommend textbooks which are written in one variety but can be read by people who use a different language variety. In fact, there are not so many languages in Africa as people make them out to be, but there are different levels of the same language. The inaccuracy of the trope of many African languages can be easily illustrated using the example of Pula, which according to Pesifra is the largest linguistic geographical spread in Africa. It is spoken in slightly different varieties across 17 different countries. From a global southern perspective, the notion of clusters would be more relevant than the notion of discrete languages, which conceals the structural and linguistic and lexically similarities across languages. Another issue arising when viewing language from the global south is what interactional analysis looks like if conversational axioms are grounded in African ways of speaking, which are founded on at least the following axioms: opaqueness, obscurity, ambiguity, long-windedness, and circuitous. If data about pragmatics had been gathered from the global south, we could feasibly have richer and better models for handling multimodality, which pays adequate attention to both visual and auditory models of language use, and thus have avoided the sociolinguistic error of treating greetings as meaningless or only useful for fatigue communication. There are 3 specific questions which arise when we situate sociolinguistics in the global south. The first one, what does the sociolinguistics from the global south look like? How does water shape our conceptual images of language in the global south? It is important to look at water because how we think of water has an impact on how we shape and treat it and how we frame language. It is relevant to frame language using water because the planet is largely composed of water, and everyone on Earth is approximately 80% water. So water is not out there, it is in us. Waterscape epistemology or wet epistemology and liquid materiality mark a dramatic shift from perceiving language as a single rootedness of a monolingual native speaker to the mobile figure of a multilingual migrant. Wet epistemology, however, captures the paradoxical relationship between water and solidity. Water always has some form of soil, some form of land, and land is permeated by water. Following research by Steinberg and Peters and Steinberg, we will treat the sea not as a backdrop against which we frame language, and we will also investigate the impact of the seaness of the sea on our framing of language. The ocean, we speculate, provides a rich context for a reconceptualization of space, time, movement, all of which have a bearing on how we analyze language. We maintain that a critical perspective can be gained by taking the ocean's liquidity to heart. However, we also question the premise of this species. For the ocean is not only simply liquid, it is also solid, ice, and air mist. It generates wind, which transports smells, and this may emote the oceanic miles inland. Although early attention to ocean's liquidity was a necessary antidote to superficial ontology, we explore what emerges if instead we were to approach the ocean as offering more than wet ontology, wherein its fluid nature is continuously produced and dissipated. Wet ontology affects how we frame language. But as Brown and Robertson remarked, diverse approaches to writing about or of the sea shape the way we engage with the sea and our relationship with the sea. In other words, wet ontology in writing in the global south has an impact on our daily engagement with seas or oceans, all of which I think are important in our understanding of language. Another important issue which we will seek to address from Southern epistemology emerges when we seriously take the complexity and heterogeneity of the sea into account. Southern theorists should try to view language and communication through the prism of assorted cables and water pipes, stuck to houses in urban and peri-urban contexts. Cables render it feasible to alter perspective. They create a type of coherence which resonates with rhizomatic discourse. Cables have an implication on how language learning may be framed. Most of the cables in urban and peri-urban centers do not have red discernible beginnings or ends, but just middle. This has implications on applied issues such as language learning and language teaching. Another aspect which might also help in illuminating the nature of language, which is absent from research in urban language variety and African literature, relates to tap water and borehole. The third question, which is important if we are to frame sociolinguistics from the global south, is how can we go beyond the sociolinguistics, which is human-centered in the global south, by challenging the human and non-human distinction, which is one of the devastating consequences of modernity. In a development of sociolinguistics of the global south, we argue that theory is not simply produced on campuses or in airports by people who are designated as part of the theory-making class. We will seek to illustrate that the theory from the South comes from the experiences of ordinary people and their concepts. The experiences of ordinary people are frequently appropriated, dignified, branded, and circulated as originally produced by elite class. So much of the social and political theory that is coming out from research into informality in popular culture, in post-structuralism, and in institutionalized practices originates from ordinary people. There is a tremendous amount of cannibalism upgrading of these sorts of things. The process of viewing language practices from the global south is therefore a process of decannibalization. We seek to challenge the idea that the global south is simply the workshop of the world and the global north is the theory-making and capital-owning center. We are therefore challenging the assumption that those who are designated as being white think and research and those who are designated as black or brown must be taught or rely on the experience of white people. If interpreters and theorists are white, this leads us to believe that theorization is epistemologically white. Something that we seek to challenge in epistemologies of the South. Another way of framing or reframing contributions from the global South is by rethinking what we regard as academic or scholarly contributions. For example, Marcus Garvey's wife played a key role in mobilizing and creating consciousness about Pan-Africanism. But according to Rob Shilem, she left only one written text. However, your contributions can be regarded as scholarly even in the absence of written text. Theory from the South should not be restricted to only the existence of written text. Otherwise, that will constitute viewing Southern theory through the lenses of Northern theory, thereby undercutting the objectives of the form. Our other objective, amongst others, is to tell the story of sociolinguistics and language studies from the Global South, particularly its underside. We will argue that the Global South can be seen as a source of important theory capable of explaining significant political and sociolinguistic events globally, including the Global North. We do not, however, treat the Global South as a geographical term only, or even as a simple geographical idea or notion, but as an epistemological orientation. Theory from the Global North perspective is usually treated as universal. It is largely generated at the apex of the global system through relying on data and input from the rest of the world. Once the theory is formed, it is expected to trickle down. It is assumed that scholars from the Global South can participate in theory formation if they migrate to the apex or learn its meta-language and contribute from a distance. The difficulties of this model are self-evident. It discards much of the actual world of knowledge formation. It also forces Southern experiences into Northern analytical frameworks and legitimizes sharp inequalities within the world's intellectual workforce and knowledge production and circulation. Contrary to universal theory for the Global North, one of the models for the Global South which we advocate, for example, in our work, is the notion of mosaic epistemology. In a mosaic epistemology, separate and distinct knowledge systems are situated next to each other, like tiles in a mosaic, and each is founded on both a specific culture and historical experience. A mosaic epistemology, despite its weaknesses, provides a viable alternative to Northern hegemony and global inequality in Northern production. However, a mosaic epistemology also must address major challenges. Because cultures and societies are dynamic, not fixed in one position. It is important to bear in mind that even in pre-colonial societies were not siloed, but invariably interacted with each other over long periods of time, absorbed external influences, and demonstrated internal diversity. In other words, the traditional societies were creolized. We argue that traditional societies were creolized, but this should not be construed to mean that prior stages were not creolized, since we do not presume an initial African purity. The human being is the example par excellence of metastability. Because traditional societies were creolized, the second epistemology we therefore propose is more dynamic, is what we call the interactive epistemology, in which horizontal relations and interactions emerge, producing what Cornell aptly refers to as solidarity-based epistemology, founded on mutual learning on a global scale, on which epistemologies enter into mutually respectful and beneficial dialogues. A solidarity-based epistemology is predicated on Goldberg, Bukharian Yusuf's notion of braiding feminism, and Bambara's notion of connected sociology. The unpredictable interweaving of ideas and experiences around the majority becomes an asset and not a disadvantage. We are using Southern theories and the epistemologies of the South and shifting the geography of reason and creolization to subject linguistics to an ideological critique. The idea of doing so may cause some discomfort among professionals who see linguistics as a science and therefore above ideology. Linguists have in fact overall been strikingly reluctant to direct an ideological critique against their own discipline, as anthropologists have recently done. The pretensions of linguistics as a science act as a powerful disincentive to any effort to contemplate the epistemic status and politics of linguistics as a discipline. Let me give myself a rest. That is a jump in and complete my talk.
Yeah, of course. You have all the time for it. We can get you pose questions and you continue, or it's up to you.
No. Let me give myself. Do you have any questions for me while I give myself a bit of a break?
Yeah, it can be.
Basically, Basically, what I'm trying to say is that linguistics or applied linguistics looks different. If you take seriously the issues about the global south and the south epistemologies and all that help you to introduce new ontological frameworks into language studies. For example, the critical issue at the moment for me is how to use hydro-colonialism as a way of framing language in order to push the discussion about language threat. Hydrocolonialism enables you to talk about water. It enables you to talk about how does my understanding of bottled water, for example, or seas and oceans, how does that shape my views about language, so that you shift from preoccupation about language that come from linguistics that are ground up on land to preoccupation to say, let's accommodate notions about the ocean. And in that case, the ocean, the seas, and all that are not the background, but they provide you additional analytic heuristics, which are part of hydrocolonialism. We talk about settler colonialism, we talk about extractive colonialism, but most of the colonialism that took place was facilitated by movements across the ocean. So we need to bring the ocean more into applied linguistics.
Wow.
And then the argument that I think we will seek to try and make is the argument that says linguistics says we don't accept that it is human-centered, that distinctions between humans and non-humans are clear, consistent, and cross different societies. But what if, for example, that we're not looking at what other notions of communication or language come in being, how forests communicate, how do animals communicate among themselves and with other humans. In other words, linguistics has followed the discussion about language by making human beings central to the discussion. That we, by assuming, there's also the other issue. I don't want ideologically to buy that it's only human beings that can use language. Because if I go down that route, it won't be long before some white person comes to me and says the only language that is worth analyzing is the language that is used by white people. Right. So because it's not very far. If you say that it's only human being, then the second question is which type of human being? Right. So in order to preempt that argument, I then said any species on the planet, whatever they use or speak is constitutes language. Because if I say it's only human, then they will come back to me and say it's only a particular type of human, it's only man. Then they will say, no, it's not only man, it's only one man. Right. So to preempt that argument, I can only conclude that every species is a capacity to communicate. But the nature of that communication, we don't know. It may be different because we have not yet developed the analytical apparatus to carry out the analysis. Okay, let's see if we can move on. But that's basically what I'm trying to say.
But can I ask you a question then? Gabriel, can I ask him a question?
No, you've already demanded that you want to ask me a question. Yes.
I'm just curious, when you mentioned that, when you say that we need new vocabulary, are you thinking in terms of words or in terms of perspective? New perspective.
Good. We need new meta language to talk about the world around. The meta language we have is inadequate to the task.
But don't we run the risk of closing in on ourselves? Like how do we make this new meta language understandable to other churches?
Okay.
On our own.
No. The issue is linguistics or applied linguistics, to some extent, generally works on some assumption of some universal meta language. The meta language that we have had from the time of the Greeks, for example, is supposed to be adequate for the analysis of any language that we come across. Right. Whether the noun, verb, adjective, etc. That meta language is universal and applicable. Right. Even if the language you have not encountered, it should fit into that particular meta language. But that meta language emerged to describe a very specific configuration of linguistics, of language. Right. So what I'm saying is that you need a meta language to describe what you are seeing. Right. And rather than assume that the meta language that we have is adequate to the task. Let me find you let me read you the first paragraph to a book that we call Southernizing Sociolinguistics. It reads like that. Southernizing Sociolinguistics belongs firmly to the literature of the politics of knowledge. It seeks to flatten the knowledge asymmetries between the North and the South. It has subversive intent. It seeks to disturb the regular vocabulary of the social sciences and humanities and to disrupt the flow of communication between the North and the South. It seeks to upset the complacency of scholars who think their language adequate to the task representing their world of inquiry. It seeks to suggest that their language is deficient and that the words and concepts, new words and concepts are required. Yeah. Right. And the interesting thing about it is this is an argument for saying that for splitting. Let me put it like that. You need a linguistics that enables you to describe what you see. At the moment, what seems to happen is you are forced to fit into existing categories, even if you are not sure that what you are seeing fits into those examples, because you approach the task with pre-existing analytical grid, and you are finding the information to fit into that grid. Instead of looking for a grid to capture your experience, what tends to happen in scholarship and language studies is you are looking for this information. How does it fit into what they told me the world looks like? Right. That is what tends to happen. You go and analyze the data, then you come up, but this doesn't fit, or this and that, and you fit into this pre-existing category. What I'm saying is that you need to go back to the existing categories. That's where the fascinating thing about language is not existing and carrying out applied linguistics in which there's no language that exists. It's fascinating because then we have challenged the very basis of the discipline itself. You have challenged the very basis of the discipline, and you've said that, okay, if languages don't exist, how then does that linguistics operate? Because you are raising fundamental questions about that discipline.
So what you're proposing has to do with this idea, the idea of the scene, for example, that we start from an existing category in the world in order to create this new meta language.
Yes.
Okay, because I was just thinking that if we just go about creating another meta language based on the same grid, based on the same principles, then it's going to be a disaster.
But for people like you and me, disasters don't really. It
No,
doesn't.
we are used to
We are
disasters.
used to it. There's nothing that we lose. You see, it's fascinating to talk about it that way. We lose nothing if we turn this whole thing upside down.
Yeah, just a moment. I have good examples for it. When I published Clarice, racism linguistic racism in Brazil, many people came across to that my work was to question some racist words only. That my book was to criticize the existence of those words, and of course, racist names will exist when due to the way we are stuck or fit into a world of racist bias or racist institutions, or the way we exist like people who deny the existence of racism. And so we cannot say it won't exist without to ensure we have a new world, so a new humanism and or not human-centered ideologies. It's racist. So thanks to this, we have words existing. But very good question about meta-discursive ideologies. Sorry, Professor Makoni.
But if you think about this, I agree with think about it like this. At the end of the day, global South orientation scholarship does not stand to benefit from the current political arrangement. Right. We don't accommodate much to gain one. And two, at the same time, global North scholarship is much more vulnerable than people give it credit for. Right. They are also trying to find ways of explaining what is happening around. Right. But somehow the scholars of Global South have got this feeling that the power completely lies outside. Okay, let me give you a good example about publishing. There's so many journals in applied writing. Even if one says no, you will find your article will be published by another journal. It's annoying, yes, not to be published as quickly as you want. But there will be somebody who will publish your work. Right. Because there are not enough Southern scholars contributing in global North scholarship. They will find, they will publish. Right. So I'm not really sort of worried very much about. I know. We all get rejected. All our work. If there's no scholar whose work has not been rejected, they reject it and they insult you. They insult me every other day. Right. And I pushed aside and I move on. Because the insults, when they get more personal, reflect one thing. That they are aware, they are paying attention to the arguments that are being made. Right. If, for example, the insults are not personal, then they will say, But if they then say they want to make it clear that Clarissa doesn't write again, it means that they are paying attention to the arguments she's making. Otherwise, why would they write 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages telling you that all that you're talking about is not useful if it did not help them? So there is a change. A change is underway. There is no doubt about it at all. The change is completely underway. But you cannot be able to bring about change in scholarship and in the world by working on your own. You need to work in collaboration with other people. Right. It's only God who can bring about change on his or her own. But human beings need other human beings to bring about change. Right. You can't do it on your own. Right. I talked to Clarissa, I talked to, for example, to Christine, I talked to a lot of different people. On your own, you can't do it. On your own, you can't do it. You need to create a collaborative environment that enables you to get on with what you are doing. Right. On your own, you can't do it. Right. And you need to avoid creating a situation of where you think if Clarissa succeeds, that means I haven't succeeded. If Clarissa succeeds, it means I have succeeded because I've got a more powerful Anna. Right. We all succeed when one of us succeeds. Right. That is the way to think about it. That is the way to think about it. Because then you don't have to make a case. If I want to go, if Clarissa wants to come to African Studies, she doesn't have to make a case every day. If Sinfree is part of that African Studies. Right. Or if she has students who want to come to African Studies. Or when Christine has students who want to come to apply to it. She doesn't have to make a case every day because she has allies. So the issue of political allegiance and scholarship is global south. The two are closely connected. Right. The two are closely connected. Yeah. Julian, you're very quiet.
Julian is my PhD student from West.
Even among students, you need Allah.
Okay. I have a comment and a question for you that can lead your next discussions. You said something that's very prominent for our sociolinguistics in Brazil, that a southern epistemologist doesn't say about geographical orientation. And specifically in Brazil, we have sociolinguistics searching for a national identity of our Portuguese. Sometimes denying the existence of creolizations. Sometimes, and with this, through this attempting to say that we didn't have Black experiences that could contribute to our Portuguese. And of course, this is a human-centered ideology, as you put it. So for your next discussions on this and in applied linguistics, I think you bring more on integrational linguistics that we sometimes ignore here in Brazil. So it's a comment for you, of course.
Right. That's interesting. In the part of my work that deals with what is called integrational linguistics, where one of the bedrock concepts in integrational linguistics is that linguistics should be lay-oriented. That the view that is central should be the view about what is or is not language or communication, is understood from the perspective of the ordinary lay speaker. Right. That's not the linguist as such who should have who should be final arbiter about linguistic issues. It should be the language used. Right. So the the radical aspect of a lay-oriented view is that it challenges the notion of expertise as articulated by the linguist. That the linguist has the final preserve, the final judgment on what may be correct or what may be appropriate sociolinguistics or not, by saying that no, it is the views of the lay speaker that is important. So interpretationism is then called a lay-oriented approach to language studies. And that's why it's interesting because in a lay-oriented analysis, the linguist may think, for example, these are languages. The lay-oriented person may not regard them as languages at all. And I've said this in a paper that we did with Pablo that I sent you, Gabriel, that the interesting challenges about lay-oriented approaches, for example, to trans-language is that for the lay speaker, they may not regard themselves as trans-languaging at all. They may just be regarding themselves as speaking. Right. But for the analyst, they may regard that as examples of trans-language in a sense. But lay orientation brings the human aspect into the center. Right. It's putting it different from a medical perspective. It's like this. Yes, the doctor knows something about the human body, but the final person who knows more about themselves is yourself. Right. You ultimately know whether you're not feeling well or you're feeling well. Right. Yes, the doctor may have expertise to help you, treat you, etc. But you are the final authority on your own human body. Right. So that is where that is the radical aspect about it. The doctor may say you are feeling well, but you may think you're not feeling well. And the final authority on that body is me. That judgment may be completely different from the judgment made by the biomedical people. But they are making a judgment on a different criteria. I make a judgment on a different criteria. So lay orientation brings the human back into linguistics.
Okay, that's great. You can keep going.
Okay, let me go for a couple of moments. Epistemologies of South and Southern theories are not anti-science. They constitute other ways or ways of knowing and are made up of knowledges created during struggle, as opposed to knowledges created either before or after the struggle. Knowledge is born before the struggle has been largely influenced by Marxism, which, like other critical approaches, has not been an effective source of social change in the global South. Knowledge is born after the struggle has been focused on the knowledges of the victorious, and thus typically excludes knowledges of other participants, particularly the vanquished. Knowledges of the South demand deep listening. This means sharing, helping, assisting, or as the commandant Marcos Salpistas used to say, we have to move behind movement and assist those who move more slowly and encourage those about to give up the struggle to continue. The point of departure of the politics of the epistemologies of the South is a characterization of modern reason. Following Santos is a form of abyssal thinking, which proposes radical distinctions between knowledge generated and developed in the global North and the global South. Epistemologies of the South are preoccupied with the production and circulation of knowledge. For those of us thinking from the perspective of epistemologies of the South, one of the problems when sociolinguistics of the global South must address is how to advance the quest for global justice and cognitive justice in terms of in terms of resistance and language activism and the promotion of language rights, and therefore need to be predicated upon epistemological resistance, which they rarely are because they are typically understood as purely linguistic activities. Methodologically, we characterize scholarship in the Global South on language as transdisciplinary, more so than interdisciplinary. Because in the latter, that is interdisciplinary, disciplines work through each other. Yet, although such a route is promising, it is still susceptible to disciplinary decadence, as Louis Gordon puts it, because it does not bring reality into focus. In contemporary linguistic scholarship, the current celebrated concept of interdisciplinarity originated in colonial discourses which emerged to rationalize existing racial inequality as part of the natural order of things or geopolitics to unite human races within the framework of Western civilization and Christianity. Both intellectual orientations consequently justified slavery and colonialism, and a one-to-one mapping between the linguistic structure of the language, thought, and race was forged as a strategy of containing African diversity through Western discourses of language. We methodologically argue for transdisciplinarity because it is best called Cruz Gordon again on a teleological suspension of disciplinarity, by which he means a willingness and ability to go beyond disciplines in the production of knowledge. In a teleological suspension of disciplinarity, it entails moving beyond linguistics or sociolinguistics. The beyond in epistemology of the South, as Louis Gordon observes, is however paradoxical. In some instances, it revitalizes an existing discipline. In others, it creates a new one. For example, in a teleological suspension of philosophy, generally a new philosophy. In some instances, while in others, it may create a new social thought that may not be philosophical at all. A teleological suspension of linguistics is relevant to us because it constitutes an epistemological decolonial act in it entails the creation and revitalization of linguistics relevant to contemporary global southern context. There's a global hierarchy of knowledge production within the colonial and the global south objective, being to supply raw materials, and the global north objective to generate theory, a phenomenon which Pauline Motonji refers to as extraversion. Extraversion, according to Motonji, is oriented to accepting authorities outside one's own country, even when dealing with issues concerning one's own country. Motonji is critical of indigenous knowledges and proposes the knowledge of endogenous knowledge as a strategy of moving beyond European knowledge. That some of the recent scholarship is not only critical of global North scholarship, but also questions colonial Western and native indigenous scholars to advocate. We need to develop methodologies in Southern epistemology which are not extractivist. Extractivist approaches view people as objects which provide information and not knowledge. Interviews are forms of data digging in extractivist scholarship. Guys, yeah, let's have a conversation now. There must be something that I said that annoys you, that you want to talk about, and all that. Julian, what's your view?
Well, I find it very interesting. All this. If this is the first time I hear all about this, I read the recommended text, and I have a few things that I would like to ask you more about. If you could make it more clear to us. First, when the text is Makoni and Pavle. Yeah. So I found very interesting when on page 4 we have super diversity according to Makoni. I'm sorry if I say it wrong. I don't know how to spell this. Is colonial in its orientation because it foregrounds attention to how people from ex-colonies have migrated the metropolitan centers and rendered these centers their judges. So if you could
explain that.
Yeah, because I have read about this super diversity, and I found it very. It's actually hard take myself out of my place, because I think that's the movement we need to do, right? When we're thinking about forgetting all the linguistics we have learned almost 50 years. Now I think about how can I think about a concept if not through concepts that I have learned. So this super diversity got me.
Let's go to it's interesting. Okay. The argument here is the issues about super diversity, etc., its origins, I think, were in migration. I can't remember who started it. And then it was popularized in sociolinguistics by Jan Blomberg and some extent Ben Ramshaw. But when they were talking about the super diversity environment, they were talking largely of migrants at that time in Europe, who made, according to their needs, environment. I mean, Jan Blomberg was citing the context he was living in, where there were a lot of different people from the Congo, all that we're now living in that part of the world. Right. So what was happening for him in his mind, he was seeing the African migrants as rendering those areas super diverse. Right. He never thought openly that the white migration to Africa, was creating super diversity that side. Right. So his thinking was always that it's the Africans on that side. The migrants, the refugees, and the ones who make things super diverse. But the reverse was not something that his mind allowed him to do.
And the reverse happened first.
The reverse happened first. The reverse happened first. And this other movement towards Europe took place in part historically as a consequence of the movement that side.
Right.
The historical people who eventually found their way into Europe didn't just go into Europe. They went into Europe because of the European imperial engagement with African colonial content. Yes. So to some extent, Sankoku is right that it then becomes a very colonial concept. It is ahistorical. It refuses to see the fact that these individuals are here because other people went that side. Right. So super diversity from that perspective is a colonial ahistorical content. It reflects, it's a pity Jan Blomberg is passed out. It reflects a classic case of Jan Blomberg. Jan Blomberg found himself in a very interesting situation whereby Africa was his area of study. But he did not want to be identified with Africa. Right. So he would talk about Africa as some springboard or something else. Because scholarship in his mind took place here. Africa was the source of the data. Right. So you can read his work, you would just make him passive, certain references in passing about where this data for him and all that. But then you talk about their height, compare, etc. But because the African scholarship was lower for him than global North scholarship. He still wanted to collect data from Africa to be used for analyzing and to reinforce and explore concepts in the North. Mm-hmm. That is really what his crisis was. That is, you can read anything that you like. That is really how he saw himself.
Well, in the same way you look at linguistic human rights, For example, when you have linguistics, human rights, now, according to Christopher Stroud and Quentin Williams, the problem that about the way they tolerate or it's a kind of something that you have like the behavior of the colonizer, of the settler, looking at now we have the chance to say them. So it's the same way you look at.
Yes. I mean, for example, in the global forum, why people like Adebayo, for example, find difficult to accept linguistic citizenship and linguistic human rights, besides because of that. Right. Because they cite examples where for them it does not work. So basically what I'm saying is the good thing about being courageous and honest to yourself. If the concept does not work for you, you say so. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, Ophelia once said that she feels like she says that possibly it was an issue about gender and race that she never had as part of her career. The courage to articulate and say what she saw. Because she was always afraid that people may either not agree with what she said or may just try to dismiss me. But my view is, if you are still setting up career and you're afraid of saying what you believe, even when you grow old, you'll still be afraid of saying what you believe. Right. It's not like you become more bolder with time. Right. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't make sense to you, you say so. You owe it to yourself to say so. Mm-hmm. Intellectual timidity and courage is you have to be honest to yourself that this doesn't make sense. I can have serious arguments with clarity, but I generally agree with that we are trying to move in the same direction. Even though we may have different styles about how to get there. Right. She may think that no, this it won't work. You can't solve it this way. And I may think, no, we're spending too much time talking about English teaching. I don't want to hear you talk about English teaching and all that. No, not that. But then she says, but I want to get by. So you can still have a conversation, even with somebody where you disagree, because you emotionally think she gets it. Right. That she gets what I'm trying to do, or vice versa. But it doesn't mean that you totally agree on everything. You don't have to agree on everything, but you can see what we're trying to do. And that is the community of scholars that you finally will find help, because they help you clarify for yourself certain things. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know if everybody. Okay, go, Juliana.
Yeah, on the other, there's another part of the text that I was thinking about when I was reading. Of the words that already have meaning, and now how we could see it in a different perspective. So there is this part that says, rejecting integrationist terms like communication, science, language, and activity on the grounds that they have not been properly defined, because they have already been defined by many European and all kinds of studies. So how is it that we could look at these words so we would have a different point of view to these words in this integrationist view?
Oh, okay. Right. What integrationism tries to do is that instead of seeing language and communication as made up of separate, discrete entities, word here, phonology, morphology here, pragmatic here, human, just say, see everything is integrated. Right. Everything blends into one. The impulse of linguistics is to see everything completely reversed. You teach a course on phonetics, you teach a course on phonology, you teach a course on lexics, you teach a course on this. So everything is completely, you separate them. Splitting is the impulse of analysis. Splitting in classification is the impulse of analysis in linguistics. In integrationism, it's the opposite. Right. Bringing everything together. Right. So instead of going, what linguistics does is bringing everything, throwing them apart. What integrationism does is to bring them together. That when you're trying to make sense of what Makoni is talking about, it's not only what is voice, whatever, it's integration. You are integrating what I'm saying, what you've read in this text, what you know about it, all that is part of what integration is. So integration is more holistic in its approach. That is the science to it. It is much more holistic in its orientation. That's what
then I understood, right? I was afraid I wasn't getting the connection. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Does anybody have a question? Please feel free to bring those questions.
Right.
Okay, that's you.
Okay, thanks, man. It has been nice chatting to you. On Friday, for example, we have a session by the editor of the Journal on Post-Colonial Linguistics, and she'll be talking about the various articles that they published there. So some of these conversations will come up with the article on intercolonial integrational linguistics comes up, was published in that journal. And it raises an interesting problem that integrational linguistics is largely a northern framework by a small group of scholars who are based in Oxford. But it's being used in global southern scholarship, in alliance with global southern scholarship. So it's more like it's an example of strategic alliances in order to further a particular objective. Right. That there are certain things that a group of people say and do, which we find in global south useful in their way of framing language. So we are able to align for the time being as we push forward our intellectual movement. Right. There are tensions in the whole thing, like in any agreement, whether it's marriage, whatever, there always are tensions. Right. But at the moment, it's more that we gain through the alliances than by operating separate. Right. And we managed to arrive at similar positions via very different routes. Right. I got to read their work through my work in missionary linguistics, etc. I didn't know about what they were doing until I discovered what they were talking about, and vice versa. They were talking about languages not existing. I was talking about languages being invented. I said, go talk to those guys. You will find it in the conversational part. And that's how. And now the world has become much wider with the philosophers like Cruz who talk about shifting the geography of prison. Like basically what we're trying to do is to shift people's thinking about certain thing. And then he has a very good phrase, shifting geography of reason. That basically what you are challenging in linguistics as a discipline, and he calls it disciplinary decadence. And so what is good is you get very powerful terms from another discipline. I don't have to create disciplinary decadence. I don't have the fluency and articulacy to be able to do so. But yes, put it is the main. This is what we're talking about. So what we also yes, okay. Anyway. So when are you guys coming to the States? When am I coming back here? Are you guys allowed to travel now? What is the state of play?
Oh, it's okay for us. Are you ready to have questions from the audience? But
yes.
Okay. Okay. I would like to hear to listen to you a bit more. That you wrote that prior to the nationalistic orientation, languages were understood in pre-colonial Africa like discourse. For example, we have emerging multilingualisms that people have all when they get together, and in the West we are used to hear about languages like entities or innumerable entities that work like separate systems. So my question is, you're speaking about southern epistemologies that don't that can be framed uh, like in a geographical orientation, but it's framed by. I would like to hear from you because to me it's more close to onto-epistemic orientation. That, for example, even in the south of the world, in the global south, you are white, so you behave like a white person, and sometimes you are not intending to check or to know more about what are the black lived experiences. Sometimes when I hear you speaking like Fanon, rejecting humanism and humanistic approaches, such as those to colonize linguistics. Should we go back to pre-colonial African perspectives on language as discourse, and how for you?
No, but the problem about going back to pre-colonial context is how far back do you go? Right. Once you start saying you go back to pre-colonial, the question is how far pre-colonial do you go? I am reluctant, for example, even to frame my understanding of temporality or history using colonial categories, because the question is how far back do I go in terms of colonial thinking. My critique of colonial arguments or decolonial arguments, at least in Africa, etc., is that colonialism took about 100 to 150 years, but Africa is a much longer historical period. So the sense in which the notion of coloniality is creates an abbreviated sense of history. In a way, that's my first view. My second view is that this phenomenon that we're talking about of the emergence of discourse practices which don't fit into boxes called language did not only take place did not only occur in colonial period, may also still occur even in contemporary urban Africa, where you have got languages in search of people and people in search of language. What do I mean by languages in search of people? You categories everywhere, but they don't. Nobody really knows who speaks what when you start asking. And when you ask people what languages that they speak, it's not very clear to them what languages that they speak. Right. They even have different names for different categories. For instance, my argument, what Africa provides you is languages in search of people and people in search of languages. In other words, I'm dramatically trying to illustrate the fact that these categories of language may not be very appropriate in heterogeneous context. Hence the phenomenon of languages in search of people in search of language. Right. That's the way most dramatic rhetorical way I managed to capture that. It's not. I began by saying it was pre-colonial, but it's okay in diverse heterogeneous context. Right. Where we're not sure who speaks what languages. Are these different names for the same phenomenon, different labels for the same language, or what? We are not sure. Right. That's where language in search of people and people in search of languages becomes to me an important historical strategy to move forward. And that is with vast implications for discussions about language teaching, language policy, and language plan.
Okay, people, if you have questions, feel free to turn on your microphone. So, please, Maria.
Hello, Professor Makoni. I was reading a text, and it was not the text required for today, but I was reading.
Which one are you reading?
I was reading the history, decolonial pedagogy and anti-racist and intercultural education. By Luis Fernandes de Oliveira and Vera Maria Ferrão Candal. And he mentions Kihuano or Kijano. I don't know how to spell his name. And Kijano says that the concept of race is an abstraction. Do you consider this as a true statement?
Right. Okay, let me give you what I can only talk from my experience. The longer I stay in the US, the more I am convinced I'm black. When I came to the United States, I thought I was an applied linguist, etc. First and foremost, and who came from Mama. Now I'm convinced I'm first and foremost black, and I happen to be an applied linguist. So from my experience, the concept of I don't experience the concept of race as an abstract. I live it every day. I live it every day. I can see why you can say, oh, it's an abstraction, it's all those, but from my own personal experience, I personally experience it every day. My encounter with anybody in the US, they first encounter me as black before they encounter me, experience my relationship with them as somebody else. That I then happen to be an applied linguist, I think is of secondary importance. So from that perspective, from that very narrow perspective, it cannot be to me an abstract. However, having said that, we are working, I can't remember, I think Clarissa and Gabriel, if any of you want to contribute towards that book, where we're trying to argue that the way race is experienced in the US is not necessarily the same way it is experienced elsewhere.
Yes.
Right. So that is the other part that is there. That there is something historically idiosyncratic about race in the US. And you can't generalize it across the board. I taught in New York City, for example, one time at Long Island University, and there was a young lady, I can't remember which South American country she was coming from, and she said to me, she couldn't understand. When she left South America, she was white, but when she got to JF Kennedy, they said now she's black. So she couldn't see, she couldn't work out to say, how is it possible? Prof, and at that point, I didn't know what answer to give. That racial categorization differ considerably across countries, across countries. And in some, for example, in some categories like color, for example, maybe they're in the US, but they may not be available in other countries. I have cousins whose fathers were white, but I've been thinking recently whether in actual fact I see them as colored. I don't. In actual fact, I don't see them. That category doesn't explain my interpersonal relationship with them. Because there are other mediating relationships between me and them. Right. So if that is what it means to say race is an abstract, then perhaps the only thing I can say is that it depends who you are and how you experience it. If you are a black young man in the US, race is not an abstract. You experience it every day when the police come and face you this way. You know you're black. You know you are black. Right. You can't pretend that you don't know you are black. The police will remind you are black. Right. That's the impression that I get. But when I move out of the United States and I go into certain parts in Southern Africa or whatever, let's say Zimbabwe or whatever, then perhaps race is what is an abstract, because ethnicity may take over.
Yes.
At that point, everybody ethnicity takes over. But even there, okay, let me stop.
Thank you.
But
Clarissa.
Just a brief comment. I don't want to defend Quijano, Candau, and Oliveira, but I think what they meant when they say that race is an abstraction is more or less the thing that you, Professor, and Pennycook tried to do in reinventing, disinventing, and reconstituting languages. I think Quijano was trying to do the same thing with the idea of race. So he would say, this is a construct. It's an abstraction, but it is very concrete in our practices, in our everyday life. So it does exist. It is strong. It is violent, but it is, an abstraction in that sense.
It depends on the body and embodiment, of course. That's the way Maria look. So it's a decolonial framework for understanding how this is interpreted alongside the world, but of course it depends on the body. If you're black in the global south and police come up to you, so this means this is concrete, not abstract, but as a framework invented by whiteness, what Clarissa put it, you should know and observe that this is an abstraction, like something that was invented to colonize and oppress. So I think that's the same interpretation, Clarissa, I have for Quijada. João Vitor.
Thank you, guys.
Hello, good afternoon. So my question is for Professor Makoni also. First, to answer you, Professor Makoni, here in Brazil, we are indeed able to travel again. So when to come to Bahia, I will do my best to be there to meet you, because unfortunately I'm very far from Bahia right now.
Well, if he comes to Bahia, he's going to come to Curitiba as well. And then
Yes, going to be a tour. We're throughout the country. But Professor, I was reading your text, and I think it was very enlightening to me, and I really enjoyed reading. But I had one question, and as you were talking, this question reappeared, so this is why I'm asking. If we consider that the coloniality aims to challenge universalizing features, in the excerpt on in the end of page 8, it starts with, however, Harry's integrational theory strives for a more ambitious goal. It wants to be relevant to any cultural conception, which is why it has to be a medieval theory and so on. I understand the point of integrational theory, and I think it's very, it speaks volumes to us here in Brazil, because as applied linguists, it's kind of what we want to do with a more political and critical approach to language. And this is why often linguists, more formal linguists, call what we do as not linguistics. So I understand the point in bringing this discussion to think this decolonial linguistics. But don't we fall into a trap of accepting that theories can be universal and like here in the text speak to any cultural conception or context, or am I reading this wrong and this was not the point being made here? What do you think about this?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I've been thinking for quite some time now about the issues about universalization and universalism. Let me think with you aloud. This is where my mind at the moment is. There's a part that says the aim of scholarship should be to create a universal in which you have got contributions from everybody. That is, so the goal is, to put it differently, it's a magnanimous universalism in which everybody has a role to play, inclusive universalism. That is one in early in the morning, in some cases, that's what I try to think. That's what we're trying to make everybody's knowledge come one. Then there's a part of me, once in a while, when I'm in an unhappy mood, I say, no, that's not what I'm trying. What I'm trying to do is to undercut imperial universalism. The universalism associated with Euro-American global scholarship. That's what I'm trying to do. Then once in a while, I come up with a third position that says, no, the question is not so much whether we are seeking to undercut universalism or to promote universalism, but it's a question of how do we make our scholarship universal. So there's three possibilities which which I tend to play with. Am I interested in undercutting investors? Am I interested in promoting? If so, how? And then if I say I'm interested in promoting universalism, I then say how do I go about it? I then say that I need to find a way of making sure that my scholarship is not confined by colonial categories like only reading and writing in English, but learning to interact with scholars who may be working in other languages, let's say Portuguese, whatever, so that I move beyond English as I seek to realize this big goal of universalism. So, for example, listening to what you guys are talking about and seeing what does scholarship in applied linguistics feel like when talking to scholars who are familiar with both English and Portuguese and other indigenous languages. Then I say, oh, yeah, that's the universalism that I seek to, I would want to be identified. The universalism that I wouldn't want to be identified with is the one that is imperialist, where these views are true when they were designed, that I am reluctant to accept. But I'm willing to accept scholarship, but it's very nature tends to move towards universalism. That you always are inclined to say, this may be, I hope it's true for my context as well. That's the tension I currently am at the moment that I'm faced with. For example, that tension is very clear when I'm working with Edred Pablo, who's coming in from integrationism and Harris, all because they frame integrationism, what they do, is necessarily true elsewhere. Right. I see the relevance of what they're doing, but remember I said to you that any alliance is temporary and there are points of disagreement. Right. They like what we're doing in the Global South because it gives them more access to a broader community. But at the same time, there are certain parts where I say, oh, but no, this, what you guys are talking about is too much for us.
Clarissa has a concept that she likes to work with, which is epistemophagy. Yes, Clarissa.
What is that?
And it's the idea of kind of digesting these knowledges and taking what makes sense to us and putting out sense. So I guess it's a similar move. But I just asked this question, to see if there was a problematization behind this idea of a universal theory.
I'll give you the reference. There is a debate between one French philosopher and one African philosopher about universalization. There is some very interesting debate, and I still have to make sense of where I stand. Right, that's why I was saying I'm inclined to say but because I'm still thinking through. Right. What exactly are the implications of this particular debate? There are debates about it. Yes. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to. It's good to know what the debates are, and you don't have to prematurely take a decision on those debates. But it's good to know that there are some people who are struggling to frame, their views about and say, oh, this is where I stand. But what is true, what will happen if the debates are taking place is that a time will come when you are forced by intellectual circumstances to make a decision about where you stand. Scholarship is so unrelenting that you will have to take a stand. So if, for example, you say to yourself, I did nothing to do with decolonial scholarship, I don't want to hear them, I can tell you you're naive. A time will come when you will have to make a decision about whether they're talking sense or not talking sense and what you think they are saying. Scholarship doesn't give you room to say you have nothing to do with it. So the more you listen to what they are saying, even if you don't want to hear what they are talking about, the better for you.
Nicholas.
Hello, Professor Makoni. It's very nice to meet you. I see Professor Gabriel, Professor Gabriel, inclusive. So, my question is more of an invitation for you to comment on a few topics that I found very interesting on the text on decolonization of languages, on of self-claimed public. On the page number 3, I guess, when you say that consequently the dialogical character of spoken discourse is converted into monological written discourse. It is precisely the kind of contextualization necessary to separate language from communication. And this comment resonated with you thinking on your other texts that you have written with Professor Penco. Disinventing language, in which you mentioned that language asks in language as an intersubjective social practice with grammar that is emergent, hybrid, and multimodal. And thinking about these two components and how we can think the perspective of language outside of Western concept, and these leads us to seeing language and how you're going to teach language. I believe that most of us are language teachers. On considering the locals of enunciation, which is a topic that Professor Gabriel and Mario, I think I have already heard Professor Clarissa talking about that as well, and Professor Junior Martinez, on considering the locals of enunciation, as we are developing not only our research, but as linguists and as people who are interested in languages as well. So how do you think this concept of the locals of enunciation can somehow be related, and how does it add to the discussion that we are carrying out today on thinking about languages from not a, I'm not going to say a different perspective, but from a perspective other than the westernized and naturalized. How do you see that?
There is no view about scholarship from nowhere. There's always from some other perspective, your personal history, the work that you are currently reading, who you are conversing with part of your community. The issue that is there is not you can't run away from your own positionality because you can't run away from yourself. Right. You are who you are. You are oriented. There are certain things that are always going to be of interest to me. The issue that is there is to what extent I can connect my interests with other people's interests, so that my quest for positionality doesn't become a search for self-indulgence. Right. That is the issue that is there, so that I'm able to come out of myself and engage with other people. But it is inevitable I will be interested in certain things because of where I am. I don't know whether you were here when I started my writing, reading about shifting stories and narrative, how I've always been seen myself as an outsider linguistic or whatever. So that's what it has always been like. For me, it has always been an outsider, a nomad, not belonging anyone. And I've always wondered if I had never traveled anywhere, if I had always stayed in one place, would I have been interested in how concepts change and shift across space? I'll never be able to answer that particular question. But you don't have to travel to be interested in how concepts shift, because you can see shift. This discussion about language, etc. You that we can even ask those particular questions. Shows how the discipline in some extent shifts. You wouldn't have been able to get linguists to listen to you and say, oh, but I'm not sure about the existence of language. They'll have thrown you out of the department a decade or so ago. They wouldn't have listened to it. Now they push back and insult you, but it means that you are asking certain questions because of what is called this ontological shift that has taken place. The shift, the ontological shift that has taken place. And we knew we were writing about these ontological shifts, but we didn't know that they were called ontological shifts. When we were saying, indigenous languages are missionary languages, and everybody would get very upset. Right. What I meant was, there was always an ontological cloud in African scholars, but we did not know what that was called ontology. Right. In other words, that's why where I like Komoro when she said how Euro-American scholarship is evolving towards Africa and the South. I think she's got it right. She's got it right. That there are certain discourses, certain discussions which are taking place in the South, which are way ahead of discussions here. Which are, for example, the discussions that we're talking about now about the classic material monomorphic, and then how it's made into the classic things then made into monomorphic material. I was writing about how languages discovered their own words way back in the 1990s. But of course, nobody cared about what I was writing about then. Until I repeated the same thing when I was in the US. And then somebody was wondering, there must be something. Why is this African fellow not so much enthusiastic about indigenous languages? Why is he talking about the invention of African words and dictionaries without languages are desirable than dictionaries with words? Why is he talking about that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I mean is that the advantage you guys have is you are able to read text in multiple languages and translate them. Right. And that is what you must never give up. That is what you must never give up. And then you are able to sort of say, for example, you're able to say, okay, in Portuguese, this is the argument that they are making about languages, all that stuff. But in English, scholarship, that is not, that doesn't come up. I'm not able to do that because I can't read scholarship in my first language, in first African languages, and then very little linguistic scholarship written in that language. So there's that gap. Right. There's that gap. But for you guys, that gap does not exist. You can read Portuguese, you can read, and then you are able to communicate with the rest of the world. using that. And that is what you must never give up. In other words, the multilingual nature of your scholarship, you should never give that up, because that makes you guys unique.
Okay, thank you, Professor. We are about to get to the end, but there is only one aspect I want to listen to you a bit more, because when I read your, as Clarissa mentioned, this inventing, reconstituting languages, I began to write a text that was about monolingualism as racist as whiteness, because back then I was reading Linda Alcoff, remarkable comments on whiteness and modernity and the colonial framework. But now, when I read your paper chapter co-authored with Lester Pennycook about multilingualism and as multilingua francas, yes, I could get to the point that you point not multilingualism but monoglossic ideologies that work for framing the context of multilingualism. Because as Africans, you are an African man, you know that we have some pre-colonial ways to look at languages that we now ignore. But within the creation of modern languages, what I might call term racist bias in language come to convene a set of practices that frame monoglossic ideologies. So first, how do you see monolingualism? Can be monolingualism strategic? For example, if we now want to speak an African language to not be understood, are we being monoglossic or monolingual strategically, or how do you see monolingualism as out of this context of modernity?
Oh, okay. Yeah. What is interesting there is we played around with the notion of multilingual francas sometime, and we didn't take it very far. And then we moved back to multilingualism and said that multilingualism at the moment, everybody is in favor of multilingualism, blah, blah, blah. But what they're doing, they are seeing it through monolingual lenses. And what we were then interested in was what we called humanistic monolingualism. I can't remember whether that paper was ever published, because we wrote it for a volume on multilingualism. So I don't think the chapter was ever published, because the argument was we are now undercutting multilingualism by arguing for
the handbook of multilingualism. The handbook of multilingualism.
Yeah,
Angela Cruz.
But you see, that is not the main argument that we are struggling with at the moment. Main argument that we are struggling with, main argument is like this. Main argument is that the linguists and the applied linguists have pluralized languages as count. Right? Language and languages. The pluralization has been in the side of the countability of language. We are impatient with the idea of enumerability of language. Language belongs to some of those phenomena that we can't count. Right. But we then say, what may not be counted is the phenomenon of language as mass. So you have language as mass. Language is countable. What the linguists have done is, when they talk about 7 languages, 8 languages, is that they focus on the countability of language as countable. Right. That is what they concentrated on. We think that language, like water, like notions of family in other parts of the world, these are not countable. Right. Language as a phenomenon is not countable. Right. Language is not arithmetic. Right. But having said that, we think epistemologically, the question that ought to be asked is whether language as mass is amenable to countability. That is the question for the day. That is what I spend my time studying if I'm not answering an email from Clarissa. That's what I spend my time when I'm trying to work out, when I'm passing, flying to the air, all that. Yeah. That's what I can do. That language like water, like notions. If you go into some parts of the world and say, how many kids do you have, how many members of the family, nobody knows how many kids there are. How many languages are spoken, they don't know. So language from that perspective are not amenable to countability because they are not arithmetic. No wonder why nobody ever gives you an accurate number of either the languages that are endangered or the languages that exist. Not because people can't count, but because the phenomenon itself is not amenable to count. Right. We are also privileged that if the phenomenon was amenable to count, we would know how many of these things are that we're dealing with. So we then say that problem can't be solved because you're asking the wrong question. Then we then say, what if we ask about language as mass and see whether we can pluralize that phenomenon? What happens to our thinking about that? That is what we have.
Okay, thank you so much. And I asked you on the chat if you have any questions. So please, nobody said if you have questions. But I'll take the chance to say goodbye by saying that I have here my former advisor during my master's degree, Professor Mariana Mastrella. And also my students here include Luis Frederico Dornelles, who was supervised by Mariana too at UNB, and my advisee, Nicolas. So we are in family too here, listening to your thoughts and, of course, taking the chance to attend such a lecture with one of the most prominent linguists in our era. Professor Makoni, thank you very much. This is
Thank you very much. It's always nice. I will get through to Bahia one of these days. I will. Yeah.
Thank you very much. These hard days for those who are resisting, and you help us resist. So thank you for helping us in such effort to resist these days, because that was so hard to resist. But thank you so much, and everybody for attending this lecture. Clarissa Mendes Jordão, who sent many messages. Thank you so much. So bye, people. Thank you, Professor.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Até a próxima semana, gente.
Até. Semana a gente vai dar aula na terça de manhã, né?
Yes, na terça de manhã, com a professora Aparecida, né? Isso. Beleza.
Gabriel.
Oi. Tô aqui ainda.
Viu? Não deixe de colocar na lista de e-mail, por favor.
Eu esqueci que você é meu orientando e abnegado dessa disciplina. Mariana, que honra ter você aqui com a gente.
Honra para mim, na verdade. Obrigada. Nossa, estou aqui, 1000 anotações aqui pensando. Muito legal.
Mas como é que a pessoa recebe a orientadora na aula do mestrado que ela conduz? Isso é você.
Isso é você, na verdade, Gabriel. Muito obrigada.
Obrigado,
Honra para mim.
Mariana. Vamos lá. Até semana que vem, gente. Tchau, tchau.
Gabriel,
Isso mesmo, Desculpa, Juliana.
Não, nada, professora. É só sobre a disciplina, Gabriel, que eu não sei se foi falada em relação à atividade avaliativa.
Nós podemos falar no início da semana que vem, não falamos realmente, é um artigo, mas a gente fala no início da aula que vem, tá?
Olha minha cara de desespero já, viu?
Gente, mas é uma coisa muito simples para vocês doutorando, se os alunos de mestrado estão chorando menos, Mariana, do que os de doutorado.
Não, tipo assim, eu tive que ativar a legenda aqui, né, para poder compreender melhor a aula e aí deu para poder acompanhar. E aí eu comecei a ler no fim, meu Deus, é só avaliação de Gabriel, só responder sobre isso e tá tudo bem, mas em inglês.
Mas não vai ter avaliação escrita, é só o artigo só, não vai ter avaliação escrita.
Professor, vou fazer uma pergunta, mas estou doente hoje, o senhor sabe disso. Estou aqui para prestigiar a Makoni, a sua aula, a professora